relationship type of person. And I could not figure it out. I could not figure out why I didn't feel as close to these seniors. They didn't want to be the captains. They didn't want to, they kept calling being the leader babysitting. And I was like, you know, I'm just confused. I'm just confused. So when I stepped down from coaching, Morgan Burke came to my office and he said, you know what, I have been thinking about this. He said, you have been talking about this lack of leadership with your upperclassmen for about 2 years now. I just finished up all of my end of the year evaluations with all 18 of the coaches, and every one of you are saying something similar. Not the exact same thing, but there is something going on here with this generation and leadership. And he said, I know, I love human behavior. I love to study human behavior. I'd always give my swimmers assessments on, you know, what their strengths and weaknesses were. And he said, I know that you like human behavior. What if I gave you your salary for another year and you just studied this? Study it. Try to problem solve for us. Figure out why all of these coaches are saying this about lack of leadership. So it was kind of a fun year. I mean, I always say I got my head out of the water, and I moved over and moved into the Drew Brees Performance Center. And they put me there because that's the hall where all of our student athletes, I mean, that's where their academic advisors are, that's where our computer lab is. So they moved me there. I kind of felt a little bit like a stalker for a little bit because they would always go like, here comes that lady, she's going to ask us about leadership. But I just tried to get to know all the students, athletes, and I just asked a lot of questions. You know, tell me about who are the leaders on your team? If they were the leaders, what is hard about leadership? And it was really neat because a lot of them were saying the same things. They're saying, we swear we're being leaders. We're doing everything that we think that we're supposed to do. And then we go to practice and coach goes, we don't have any leaders. So it was almost like the coaches had a different definition of leadership than our upperclassmen did. So we figured that out, and I was talking to the coaches. I'd go to the coaches meetings still, and I'd go to the student athlete meetings. And then I started like asking other people, I just wanted to, actually I kind of pretended I was Katie Couric for a year. I just interviewed a lot of people. But I actually got to know some of the Marines on campus. I talked to the Army, the Marines. I mean, you think of great leaders, immediately you think of military. So the Marines invited me to go to Quantico for a full week. And I got to watch the way they train their leaders. I'm telling you, it was one of the neatest weeks of my life. I wanted to join the Marines afterwards. I loved every single bit of it. I learned so much and brought so much back. One of them is just, what is your mission? Do you know what your mission is? 1 million people have a mission, but hardly anyone lives a mission. And I thought about you guys today when I was just listening that you guys live your mission. It's very, very obvious. But there were so many things that I learned at Quantico and brought those ideas back. So this whole time I'm just kind of I have this great big whiteboard in my office, and I was just writing down ideas as the year went on. And then, you know, at one point I was kind of like thinking, all right, now what do I do? And if I would have been 20 years younger, I would have done this the first day, but I Googled it, just Googled leadership, generational changes in leadership. And this, I mean, it's almost scary. Like the first 50 articles that come up are negative. It's like the first one that came up, A Nation of Wimps, the Millennials. That's the first one, written by Psychology Today. And a lot of it was just negative, but one man's name kept coming up, and it was Dr. Tim Elmore. And he has a free blog. I get it every single morning. I've got all of the coaches get it now, and I have even the student athletes receive this. But he is out of Atlanta, so I flew to Atlanta. Morgan let me go there, and I went there for about 4 days for a workshop with him. And he is kind of a guru on leadership in the millennials. It was absolutely stunning what I learned there. I'm going to share a couple of things that really made an impact. One of them, the millennials they are the first generation that coaches and teachers are not in the top areas where they get their information. It's their parents, their peers, and the internet. The internet actually knocked out coaches and teachers. So right there, you know, we're not imagining this little disconnect. We really were having one with them. So that was interesting. This is another interesting fact. The millennials that we're raising right now are the most tolerant generation we have ever raised. That's the beauty. That is so amazing. They hang around with, you know, Christians and Catholics and atheists and Muslim and Jews and blacks and whites and heterosexual, homosexual. They don't care. It's all about values, core values. And that is beautiful. They're teaching us things about that. I cannot wait for them to get into politics. I really can't. I am so excited. I went from like thinking this generation's really getting on my nerves to I love this generation. Just learning about them and learning what makes them tick and asking them questions. So basically, by the end of the year, I had come up with a lot of this stuff. This guy at Tim Elmore that I learned so much, I hired him on the spot, and he flew back to Purdue and met with all of our coaches and administrators. And so everything I had learned, I wanted them to hear the same thing. And so at the end of the year, we just came up with this idea that why don't we have a leadership institute, or like we were calling it the academy, the leadership academy. Why don't we just start this? And we thought, let's make it all be optional. If they want to come, they can. If they don't want to, we don't want to force them. We don't want to force leadership. We want them to want to be a leader. And so then Alan Karpik, I don't know if any of you guys know Alan Karpik, yes. So he wrote this really nice article, and he was flying out to actually meet with Coach John Wooden. And he was telling Coach Wooden about this. And Coach Wooden gave him permission to come back and tell me that we could name it the John Wooden Leadership Institute. And so talk about like this idea in your head that suddenly just, I mean, had instant credibility. And of course, we're definitely the backbone of our program is John Wooden's Pyramid of Success, his 15 characteristics that all of our student athletes learn about. So that was 10 years ago, and we said, let's just try it. And even the coaches and our AD, Morgan at the time, said, no one's going to come if it's optional. No one's going to come. And so that was 10 years ago, and they just don't realize how much you can dangle food in front of student athletes. And they just so, I mean, honestly, I'm always like, today is about resilience, and we're serving Chick-fil-A. Oh, I'll be there. So I always try to put some really good food in with a good meeting. And we really try to be, to value their time. When we say it's 1 hour, literally, it is 1 hour. So they know exactly how much, because they have their days scheduled all the way down to, usually 5:30 in the morning until 10:30 at night. So I want to tell you a little bit about the Leadership Institute, just walk you through it. The first thing that we do is talk to our recruits and explain to them about it. This is what we are. This is our mission statement. If you come to Purdue, we're going to want you to think and act like a scholar, a citizen, and a champion. That's very easy. Every single one, 526 of our student athletes can say what their mission is. Anytime I see them, I'm like, are you living your mission? You're doing the scholar part, you're doing the citizen part, but are you really, giving it all to your sport, or the other way around, or whatever? But that is our mission. And they actually design a t-shirt. We have a program called Boilers Back in Action, and they design a t-shirt, and they all get this matching t-shirt. It says, I'm a Boilermaker, student athlete. Everything is student first, athlete second, 24/7. And then it says on there, the three things, the champion, the scholar, and the citizen. And that's what we're building. So when we recruit, we're telling people that. Do you want to be a part of that? Because that's our mission. If you come here, we're going to expect you to have that mission too. So that was one of the big things from the Marines. Actually, when I went to the Marines, they gave me their mission, and goals on a laminated card. So I did that. I thought that'd be so good. I got in trouble by the NCAA because that was a gift. So I couldn't give it to them, but I love the idea. And honestly, like when I was at Quantico, you carry that with you at all times. You know, when they were a little forceful with it, like you're either with us or you're against us. And we try not to be that forceful with the student athletes, but I just love how clear the messaging was. And so that's something that we try to take a lot of pride in, having a Purdue family. And I think if you have a common mission, it's easier to be a family. And so that's one of the first things. The second thing that we did is we implemented a program for our freshmen, and it's change management. So one of the classes at Purdue is called change management, and Rodney knows about that one. But so what we do, we contract with CAPS at the university. CAPS is the Counseling and Psychological Services. And all of our freshmen take this class taught by psychologists or psychiatrists. No one from the athletic. I get to teach 1 hour of it, one semester, 1 hour. But no one from the athletic department teaches this. This is from CAPS, and it's all about psychologically. You know, going from high school to college is a big change. And a lot of them were the smartest at their high school, and they come here and whoa, everybody's smart. You know, they were a very good athlete in high school. They come to Purdue, everybody's good. They might have been a star there. They might not get very much playing time, you know, here. So we're trying to give it, plus they don't have their parents there. They're making decisions. There's no curfew. I mean, there's a lot of change that happens in that first 6 weeks. So we felt like that was kind of building a foundation on core values. We have them talk about core values in there. And we work with the curriculum with CAPS. So that's kind of fun. Then we have them take the class second semester also, and that's a little bit different. It's almost like it's self-reflection. You're going from survival to thriving. So we look in the mirror, and they have to, and we also, one of the first things is we teach them is put your phone down, a great handshake, hello, eye contact, you know, no mumbling, take your hood off, you know, and don't sit in the back of the classroom with your hood on, with your earphones on. You know, all those like things that, you know, we think is common sense, but we're not acting like they know anything. We're starting all over, and we're going to teach them some manners and just how to represent their school, their team, their coach, and our Purdue family. Then we have two groups. One's called the Emerging Leaders, and one's called the Boilermaker Athletic Council. The Emerging Leaders are the younger ones. They're usually the freshmen and sophomore. The Boilermaker Athletic Council are the older ones. So the younger ones they are watching. Like, it's so funny. We had a meeting 2 weeks ago before spring break, and Carson Edwards is in that group. And I'm asking all of them, you know, you guys, we're trying to stay positive all the time. You have to really work on that. So the whole lesson that day was, you know, positive attitude. So your coach is teaching you about culture. You know, you're trying to be positive, but usually someone's in your ear telling you something else. You know, and I go, can you think of that? And Carson Edwards was so funny. He goes, my mom's in my ear all the time. You know, I just died laughing, but they're so truthful about it. I mean, because Coach Katie's trying to teach him to play team ball, and he has a role, and this is his role, and you have to, you know, it has to fit into the system. But yet his mom was saying, you need to be playing more, you need to be scoring more, you need to be doing this. So he had to like learn to balance that. So those are the kind of some of the things that we do in the Emerging Leaders. The Boilermaker Athletic Council, those are usually the captains, and they're problem solving. And what it is I have 10 minutes. They give me a 10-minute time in their hour. And I do a 10-minute leadership lesson, and they run the rest of the meeting. And it's about community service. Are any teams having any problems that we need to discuss? So, I mean, we've had some of the greatest discussions. A few years ago, we had a women's golf team, and our very, very best golfer had a little bit of a tendency to put the coach down. And so these other two golfers were like, we have tried everything. She's our roommate, she's our good friend, but she puts our coach down all the time. And we've got to stop her because now our freshmen are starting to do it. And they go, we've tried this and that. And so we went around from team to team, like, what would you guys do? What would you guys? And football they were on a roll that day. They go, just beat her up. One time, take her off. Beat her up. So like, no, let's try something else. But, and I love this because this is communication, it's problem solving, it's being resilient, it's all of those leadership lessons. And finally, they could not figure out what they were going to do. So 2 football players and 2 women, I forget what sport they were, they took her out to dinner. So I gave them the credit card, and they took her out to dinner. I don't know. Yeah, you can have occasional meals. I made sure it was legal. And so they took this golfer out, and I don't know what they said to her, but one of them texted me and said, you know what, I think she understands now. I think she gets it. And so, 3 weeks later, they go on, they win Big Tens. We're all like, yeah, way to go. But they were predicted to win. They were really good that year. I'll be darned. 3 weeks after that, they won NCAAs, won the whole thing. And our whole BAC told Morgan at the time, they go, where should we come in to get our ring size? So, if it wasn't for our problem solving and helping them, they would have never done that. But what I loved about that is just sitting back and watching collaborate, watching them, try something, fail at something, and come back up with another idea, and then to see it pay off. Like, honestly, they really did all feel like they helped win that championship. And then they start, like baseball said, you know what? This is so strange because we were always kind of taught to keep our problems to ourselves, not to complain. But this isn't complaining. This is problem solving. So we've got 3 problems that we need you guys to help us figure out. But they all started communicating a lot better because of that one example, and I really like that. Then the other thing that we have is we were trying to figure out how can we incorporate the pyramid of success. We thought that would be really good. And so what we do is we have a guest speaker come in. We were trying to do it once a month. Now we do it about every 6 weeks. And that person comes in and talks about one of the characteristics on that pyramid of success. And if a student athlete goes to 15 of them in their 4 years, they can get the John Wooden certification. And it goes on their resume. We're trying to get Purdue to allow us to put it on their transcript as like a leadership certification. So they're right now in the process of looking at the whole curriculum to see. That's our goal, to get that on there. But that's really neat. Just the speakers, like we had Drew Brees come in and talk about competitive greatness, and his talk was unbelievable. How he said, utilize your resources. He said when he was 18 years old and driving to Purdue, he thought of 3 things. One is, he said, I'm coming off an injury, so I'm going to use that our sports performance room and the trainers and the doctors every day. 2, he goes, I didn't come from a really, really good high school, so I'm going to use those mentors and tutors all the time. And he said 3, he goes, everyone lists me as 6 foot. I've never been 6 foot in my life. I never will be. I'm undersized to be a quarterback in the Big Ten. So I'm going to use the sports psychologist to actually think bigger. And I mean, yes. And you know what? These are the same things we were telling these student athletes. We have so many resources. And it was almost like, did you ever watch Snoopy? Or when your kids were little, they watched Snoopy? And like when they would talk, they could hear, but when the teacher or the adult talked, it was like, wah, wah, wah. Yes. We were like, my gosh, Drew Brees said it, and the line out the door to the training room, they were lined up for mentors and tutors, and we're like, okay, that was a good guest speaker. We brought in the CEO of GE. That one was amazing. I had to meet with his bodyguard 3 times to show him all the windows, the doors, the exits. I was like, who is this guy? He was amazing. And he told our student athletes that they hire more Purdue people than any school in the world because of 2 things. 1 is because of their work ethic, and 2 is their ability to get along with all types of people. That just made all of us so proud, So we try to bring people in that are going to be super inspirational. One of them was, we brought in a Marine, and he was a Purdue grad. He was 26 years old, drop-dead, gorgeous young man. Came in with khaki shorts and 2 prosthetic legs. And he talked about enthusiasm. And how, and he quoted John Wooden on enthusiasm, and he said, don't sit there and think I have to go to practice. You get to go to practice. He said, I'll tell you, I wouldn't change anything in my whole life. I wouldn't even change anything to get my legs back. I mean, I love my life. And he had just gotten married, and he was so happy. I had a big lump in my throat, and I was like, don't cry, don't cry. Then I turned around, and the whole wrestling team and the football players were behind me. Everyone was crying. And it wasn't pity. It wasn't pity. It was like true inspiration about being grateful and having enthusiasm. It was awesome. And then so that's kind of what the program looks like. And we thought, that's pretty good. It's teaching them life skills and problem solving and resilience and grit and communication. And then I had a little volleyball player call me after she graduated. She had her dream job. She was in food science. She had a condo in downtown Minneapolis. And she called me about 4 months out. She goes, Cathy, I need help. She goes, we do such a good job on the transition at the front end, but we don't do very good on the back end. She goes, I love this company, but no one comes to work with their why. No one's enthusiastic. There's no goals. Who am I if I'm not Carly, the volleyball player? I'm going through an identity crisis. And she was having trouble exercising. She was having trouble eating. So I was like, this is so good. So we just kept talking, and we kind of decided. We made a program called BLAST, Boiler Life After Sport. And they go through and they get like financial advising. They do career development. They do identity and mental health. And they do exercise and fitness. And there's like 4 things in each one. We designed an app for it. All at Purdue, we designed this app for it, and they can upload and download and go to these programs. And if they do there's 4 things in each category, they get $200 towards a business suit their senior year. So then that they can use that for when they interview and things. So that, it's just a really, really neat program. And it's awesome for our student athletes. It's good for the coaches. Like one of the things that I like to go in and work with teams, one of the things that I did, I think you guys will like this story. So 4 years ago, when this men's basketball team, when those seniors, Dakota and Isaac, PJ and Vince, when they were, and Jaquil, because he was with them, when they were freshmen, they had gotten, right when they got here, Purdue had just gotten last in the Big Ten. That just is not normal. Purdue does not get last in basketball in the Big Ten. And so I went to coach, and you got to know that when I was coaching, Matt Painter was on the basketball team. He dated one of my swimmers. I have watched that kid grow up. So I go into his office and I say, I'd like to have a meeting with your team. And he's like, okay, yeah, I'll get him in the locker room. I go, no, I want him at my house. And he goes, okay. He goes, you want coaches there? And I go, no, thank you. He goes, well, what's the meeting going to be about? I go, we're going to talk about feelings. And I'll never forget that. He looked at me and goes, oh, shit. It was so funny. And so then next, one by one, here comes A.J. Hammonds and Rafael Davis knocking at my office. Is it true we have to come to your house and talk about feelings? I go, yes, guys, you do. So then finally I told him, I go, it'll take 30 minutes to eat, and then you'll stay for an hour and talk. You guys, 3.5 hours later, I had to say, you guys, I have to go to bed. It's time for you to go. Well, we can have another dinner at another time, but we got to go. I got to go. And they were all like, can we do this again? And they just sat and opened up their hearts and souls. They were vulnerable. They talked about what worked, what didn't work, what they needed to do, how they needed to hold each other accountable. We did like this. We did all kind of little exercises. We did practices where we practiced talking to each other, saying, you're being lazy, or I need more effort out of you. We literally practiced. Because, see, that goes back to what I said when this group is so tolerant they're also tolerant of bad behaviors of each other. So like if Tracy and I work together and I come in and I come in every morning a couple hours late, leave a couple hours early, she doesn't want to come up to me and say, Cathy, what are you doing? You know, and that's what they do. They feel like that's being judgmental by calling someone out. And this is what they explained to me, that that's really hard on them to call out their peers. And so we had to go about teaching that in a different way. So what we do now with each team, and we started it with men's basketball, we call them above the line behaviors and below the line. And then each team can name it, like men's basketball names theirs Final Four behaviors and last at the Big Ten behaviors. So when you do this, these are the results you get. If you act like this, these are the results you get. And then everyone has an agreement that they're all going to hold each other accountable. It's not just the seniors that have to hold everyone accountable. That's one of the reasons they didn't want to be the captains. Everyone. Now, of course, you've got great leaders. I mean, like Dakota's going to hold everyone. Vince, you know, those guys, PJ, Isaac, they have a great team culture. That's our goal. That's our goal, to get every single one of our 18 teams to have that type of culture, that the coach can coach and recruit and the seniors can lead the team. So it's it kind of sums it up. Just the whole Leadership Institute is for that. It's for production. It's for better production in the classroom, better production on the field, and better production in life after, you know, to get their degree. It's sometimes I tell people everything that I teach now, I swear to you, I learned in Girl Scouts. Honestly, I learned all of this in Girl Scouts. But I don't know, somehow this generation, they are great leaders. They're wonderful leaders. You just have to ask them. You have to find out what makes them tick. I tell the coaches all the time, take 2 steps forward to them. They'll take 2 steps forward to you. And they are relationship people. I mean, let them know that you care and they will run through a wall for you. And think about it. That's exactly how John Wooden did it. That he did. He let them know that he cared and then they ran through a wall for him. So, any questions?
Will you fill out an application for membership in Kiwanis?
Yes, thank you. Yes?
There was a nice article in the paper today about Dakota and what his teammates said about it.
Yeah.
All positive.
It is. It's all positive. It really is. And he just walks the talk.
You need a little more enthusiasm.
See, I can't start, once I start talking about it, I mean, literally, you have to get a hook and get me out of here. Because it's fun to work with the student athletes and help them. It's like I call myself, I'm the assist, behind the scenes, just trying to lift them up and teach them. It's fun. It's a great job.
And they're great kids.
Have you thought about reaching to high schools and administrators in high schools about
Yeah. In fact, I've spoken to several high schools, guidance counselors, companies. I really think that high school should start a program like this. Like I know Harrison kind of has something like this now. Lafayette Jeff has started something. And now I really think it would go great starting it in junior high. But that's really good.
One more?
I just wondered if there were any general observations on kind of the difference between women and men in how this is their perception or their strengths and weaknesses towards the leadership?
No, I don't think that there's that much difference towards their opinions towards leadership. There definitely is in changing a culture. I honestly believe the guys buy in more to team culture, and women are I don't know, I think there's some people in their ears, you know, telling them not to buy into the culture. That's the biggest difference I've seen working with all of them. The men seem to really, they accept their role a little bit better, and if they don't, they leave. You know, like if I'm not going to play, I leave. But the women kind of stay and bicker. I'm trying to get, you know, that sounds bad, like I'm putting them down, and I'm not, because I've seen some guys do that too. But I just had a meeting with the team this week, and I was like, you guys, you're fighting against the coach. I don't know why you're doing that. Buy in, and everything will be, simpler. If you want to be a coach someday, you can go be a coach. But right now, you have to abide to this coach's new culture. That's a good question.
Thank you so much. Very special gift for you. Thank you so much. We might have to have you back again to tell us some more. That is wonderful.